All right. They may teach very different subjects, but you can always find them on the same page of a good book. It's Killin' Time with Katie and Kim, and it is Wednesday morning for us here.
The day early.
Yeah.
A day early, but that's great. That's great. Welcome back to Killin' Time, everybody.
Good morning. Good morning.
Good morning. So, Kim, what did you read this week?
So I finished, not the guest tenant.
So, glasses are important, y'all.
When you need to read a title of a book, make sure you have on your glasses. The Quiet Tenant. So it was one, like, I had to start and stop a few times. So, of course, you know, it's a widowed man, has a 12-year-old daughter. However, he's a serial killer. And he captures Rachel is the girl's name that is his person that he's had. Okay, backtrack. He picks a target, kills him, keeps the trophies. He picks Rachel up. She has like a car broke on the side of the road, puts her in the truck, and he's like driving, and she makes one comment, and he turns around and he ends up keeping her captive for 5 years. And so
I don't know what I would rather. I feel like I'd rather you just kill me.
So, and you know, that always goes to me, that one comment, one word.
You just never know what's going to trigger somebody.
Know. And so it was a statement that she made that was a connection to his daughter, but she didn't know that.
She didn't know that.
Anything about him. And so he ends up keeping her in the woods, in this shed for almost 5 years, and then he has to move. So what do you do at that point? You're a serial killer. You have a daughter. You're widowed, and you have to move.
And now you have to move the secret person.
So he comes up with this whole story about with his daughter that this is a person that just moved to town, has no family, has no money, trying to get on their feet, needs somewhere to stay. So they're going to be nice and let her stay in their extra room, is how he explains it to his daughter. So they move into the house. And he's this type of guy, kind of like a Ted Bundy. Everybody in the community loves him. Great guy, you know, does all this stuff. Oh, hey, how you doing, Aiden, and stuff. And so that's how he explains it. But then I'm thinking the daughter's like 12 years old. So you don't think that's weird that this random person.
At 12, I feel like I would have questions, but I think it all goes back to, and we say this all the time with the stuff that we talk about and watch, you'd be so surprised that just what people are willing to believe just because that's what they want to believe, or they're afraid to question anymore. Because, I mean, you got to think, if her dad's a serial killer, he's got to have a creep factor, and you feel that. Like, you feel that. And so she has to have,
and
feeling that.
As the book progressed, there were things that the daughter, because it would be from Rachel's point of view, then it would be from the daughter's point of view. Rarely was it from Aiden's point of view, the killer. So,
that's interesting. So the daughter's point of view.
So it comes, you know, she's allowed to eat breakfast and dinner with him. Then she gets locked in the room, handcuffed. And there are certain times he ends up meeting someone else that he starts stalking. That's going to be his next victim.
Yeah, because it's never enough. You've got to satiate the desire.
And so, but there were times like he would leave the handcuffs undone. Well, to me, I'm like, I'm booking it. I'm out the house.
But there's that Stockholm syndrome.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then you also had the piece of the daughter that she was getting to know and starting to have these conversations with her, and she was worried
Probably
about
an attachment
her.
to each other.
And she was also worried, you know, what was the dad doing to her and stuff. And so she didn't want to just leave. It was started out as
man,
this,
I think I'd leave and just let the cops know, hey, man, he's
got
got a dog.
Well, that's what I would be like, hey, this dude,
You know,
I've been locked up 5
yeah.
years.
And he has a
But
kid.
the ending of the book was so crazy. So crazy. She ends up escaping. Spoiler alert, if anybody wants to read this, here's the ending. The town decides he's this great, wonderful man. We're going to have this party for you at your house. Well, it's a house that he's renting from the judge of the community. And so his one stipulation is that no one is allowed inside because she's locked up inside.
Oh,
and
it's an outside party.
It's an outside
Okay.
party.
All that time?
I know.
So previous to all this, she figures out how to pick locks. She's like figuring him out. She finds all his tokens and trophies or whatever in the basement, and so she's starting to play these.
I wasn't the first.
She's starting to play these head games with him and stuff, and it's just this back and forth. But at the end, she takes the daughter during the party, and they drive away. He chases. They all end up at the police station, which I'm like the craziest. So you got this man yelling at the police that she stole his daughter, and she's telling the police,
he stole me.
So it was just like at the end, I don't know. It was just the craziest.
Yeah, that sounds
book.
very, roller coaster ride.
It was.
Yeah.
However, it was the majority of the book was from Rachel's point of view, the person that was held captive for 5 years, and just what she went through. And then, like, she was, pretty smart. Like, there were times that, like I said, with the handcuffs, I would have been like, I'm out. Bye.
Yeah.
But it's
you
like
have to weigh your risk very, very carefully, because if you're going to take the risk, you have to make sure that you are going to get away. You can't just be like, oh, I hope I will. Like, you have to make sure that when you are willing to take the risk, you're actually going to get free.
And I think had the daughter, they not had that piece in the book, it would have just been like any other story, or not had more depth to it.
Yeah,
like,
that
it would
brought
just
some
been
depth
like,
to it.
okay, serial killer, captive. Oh, let me get away.
Heard it 100 times.
Yes,
Yeah.
But having that piece of him being a widow with a daughter, and she making that connection with the daughter, just put a whole different spin on it. So, as much as it was like a slow read to start with, by the middle end, you're like, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
So great book. Recommend.
For our viewers here, you weren't going crazy a minute ago. Y'all's cameras were switched, so like y'all were looking away from each other, and it was driving me crazy. So there's about a minute there
we're turning our back to each other.
The cameras are all over the place because I was trying to get it right.
Gotcha.
So it's right now, everything's good. But that was it was just bothering me, and I thought, you know what? If I was watching this, I really
You'd be like, why are they mad at each other?
Yeah,
Today we're gonna be like we're turning our backs to each other.
No.
I gotta put some labels on these cameras or something. So that was. I kept looking at it. I was like, what is going on here? And then I'm like,
something feels off.
like they're just looking off. They're looking away from each other when they talk to each other. Like, this is not.
Oh, there you go. So now y'all know what happened.
So there we go. You're all right. You're not crazy. Well, you might be crazy, but that's not part of it.
So the quiet guest.
The quiet.
Oh, no, the quiet tenant.
I got everybody messed up.
Now we're all confused. The quiet tenant.
So yes, recommend it very much. And so since then, I'm just starting. It's called The Other Valley. Have you? Okay. Gives me kind of like The Giver.
Oh my God, the best ever.
Divergent.
Okay.
So you're
speaking the language.
You live in this town. Okay, we live in Ascension Parish. Well, the town to the east of us is 20 years ahead of us, and the town to the west of us is 20 years behind us.
That sounds about right.
And everything is... and everything, all of them are fenced off. And like, if you want to visit, you have to have permission, and it's only under certain circumstances.
Kind of sounds like Hunger Games too, with the different little districts,
and stuff. So it's kind of a combination of all of that. So right now, it's just kind of.
That author said, "I see what you've done here. I'm going to mix it all together."
Yes. Yeah. So I want to see, when was this book? I didn't look it up. When was it written, like in relation to those Divergent Hunger Games? So right now it's just like introducing, like, okay, this is the situation scenario with our towns, and now let's start getting into characters. So I'll let you know how that one is
world
next
building.
week.
Sometimes that's the slowest part.
It is.
I always say I'm not a big fan of the world building part of books, because I'm like,
yeah. What was the one?
So
the
tedious.
list. Whenever
the guest list.
No, the list that the social media. I didn't finish reading it.
Oh
because
because you were like, I can't even get into it. Yeah.
Oh, and the other one, the future. couldn't even get
into it
because they were so shallow. They were like these billionaire CEOs
You're like,
wanting
can't
to
relate.
change the world, and I'm like,
We're teachers,
okay,
can't
I
relate.
can't relate, but
we do change the future, but we just don't have millions of dollars to do it.
So like that one, I couldn't get past the building of the characters because I needed more. Like it was just, oh, I'm a billionaire and I created this, and now I'm going to rule the world. Oh, I'm a billionaire and this is my company, and now our 3 companies. Well, I need more depth to a person, other than just you're a billionaire and own a company. So
that's not enough.
No.
Yeah.
All right. So tell
I
me
finished,
about
Only the Beautiful. Y'all, you got her. Susan Meissner. I think she's becoming one of my favorites.
I got it right. I was like, that's Susan. Okay.
Susan Meissner. Yes, she is wonderful.
The last book we read was
The Nature of Fragile Things by her, and wonderful. We both really loved it.
Loved it.
This one is Only the Beautiful, and she does such a good job.
Okay,
with,
don't do too many spoilers.
No, I won't. I won't. She does such a good job of because it's historical fiction, and sometimes historical fiction will take liberties with certain things. I'm not saying she doesn't, but she's very she does such a good job of placing her people in that time period, like just such a good job, like very authentic. I feel. I mean, I don't know. I wasn't alive in 1939, but I felt like it was. I felt like it was authentic. So anyway, there's Rosie, and she is the daughter of a wine dresser, like the vine dresser, at a winery or like at a vineyard that makes wine. And her parents and brother passed away in a car accident, and she was not there. She was not in the car. And so she is the only surviving member. And so the people who own the vineyard take her in, like she becomes their ward. And the extraordinary thing about Rosie is she has synesthesia, which is when she hears sounds, she sees colors as well. And this is a real thing. Synesthesia, I've Googled it. I have gone down the rabbit hole. It is very, very rare, but it is a real thing. Some people can have synesthesia. It's very rare, like maybe 2 people in the world, And so Rosie has synesthesia, and her mom has always told her, keep it to yourself. Because in 1939, people will think you're crazy, or they think that you are,
quick to lock you
very
up
quick. And she does
institutions, asylums, whatever. They were called then.
Rosie, and I won't reveal how, but Rosie gets pregnant.
Not going to reveal how.
Not going to reveal how.
Well, I mean,
I think you know how she gets pregnant, but I will not reveal.
Don't reveal
the events that lead to the pregnancy.
I won't reveal how she gets pregnant. Okay.
And as a turn of events happen, she gets locked up in the mental institute, or home for the infirmed is what they call it. And she's like, she's approaching the place, and she's like, I'm not infirmed. I'm not infirmed. I'm just pregnant. And she's only 17.
That, right?
And so she's like,
yes.
she was under the impression that the state was going to bring her to a home for unwed mothers. And she's like, that's not what this is.
No.
And so she endures some time at the mental institution, and her daughter is taken away from her. And she just, and it stops there, after she gets out, and she works for a hotel. And at this hotel is a convention, and this doctor is speaking, and he's speaking about synesthesia. And she's like cleaning the tables, and she's like, what? And so like afterwards, she goes up to the speaker, and she's like, that thing that you were talking about, I have that. And he was like, you have that? And so it stops right there, because it says and at this point she knew her life was going to change.
Right.
And so then changes perspectives to Helen Calvert, who is the sister of the people who they didn't adopt Rosie, but took her in. And Helen had a particular soft spot for Rosie as she was growing up, but Helen lived in Austria. She just loved being in Europe. Well, what happens in the late 30s, early 40s? World War II. And Helen is a nanny for a family who has a disabled girl. And you know how Hitler felt about disabled children. And that is what happened to the little girl. She is put to death. And so Helen has a chip on her shoulder, as you will, because she had a very soft spot for this little girl. Like little girl was very special to her. So anyway, long story short, Helen ends up making her way back to the United States after, some heroic deeds and stuff. And she finds Rosie's daughter and adopts her. And that's where I'll leave it because I don't want any spoilers.
Okay.
And it is a beautiful, beautiful story. It is absolutely stunning. I almost cried, which if you know me, like it is hard, but I was like, wow. Okay.
All right.
Woo, okay.
Next.
Yep. So there was a moment you're like, oh, okay. Wow, that's special. It was very beautiful. Loved it.
Having surgery tomorrow morning, so I got plenty.
You got plenty of time. It was beautiful. It was one of those that I did not want to turn off. I wanted to keep listening.
I will be catching up.
There was not one because obviously
I was the narrator with
gorgeous.
That one.
Loved
okay.
it. Yep.
I think I'll do.
There's two different narrators, and they're both. So Exie Sands does the voice of Helen, and she's one of my favorite narrators. I have listened to a bunch of her narrations. She has a great voice. I can't remember who does Rosie's voice, but she just like. They're so spot on with what you think they should sound like.
And I think
so
that's
beautiful.
something with Audible. It's like the ones that I do, like, oh, let me listen to this.
Audible does a good job.
Or not Audible, audio books, but I know I have the Audible
If
app.
it's on Audible, they usually do a good
sometimes,
job.
like, you go to listen and you're like, ooh.
Nope.
Yep. Like, no, can't buy into
I
that.
don't care how good this book
30
is.
seconds. 30 seconds,
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
No,
if you like Harry Potter, you would like that narrator. He's great. I'm not into Harry Potter, but
Harry Potters.
But if you're ever like, oh, I just would love to listen to it, that narrator is, oh my God, like exactly what you would think it should sound like. Like the best British
have
accent.
To listen
to it. And does all the voices for all the characters. Oh my God. So good.
Okay, well now I want to listen to the Harry Potter.
So good. And I'm not into Harry Potter. I know that makes me like I'm not down a couple notches on my English teacher because I'm not a Harry Potter fan. But
love it.
The narrator was really good.
Okay.
So
what's your
next one that I read? I did end up reading another one this past week.
A little overachiever.
It was a short one, y'all. It was a short one.
Eric and I are like on the struggle bus.
It was a little short 6-hour book. It was a little 6-hour book that I read on Sunday. It was called Counting the Cost, and it's by Jill Duggar Dillard. And back in my younger days, I was very into the Duggar family. I loved the Duggars. I loved their show. I loved, 19 Kids and Counting. I was just so into it. And then obviously until but even then
did you watch
the
documentary on
I did not watch that
HBO?
I did not.
So yeah,
Um,
I can't remember the name of it. It was.
It's very. You're talking about the Gothard guy, the Bill Gothard. I did watch that. The one that was on.
Let me look it up. Go
I
ahead,
feel like-
continue.
But yeah, there was one about, and it's not just the Duggars. It was about that IBLP.
Yeah.
Okay.
yeah.
And so
Yeah.
yes, I did watch that. Because
But they interviewed the
Ginger.
one who wrote the book.
Oh, Jill.
Jill.
Yes,
They
she is
interviewed
in there.
her
Yes,
and
yes,
her
yes.
husband. So
Yes, I did watch that.
Let me put my glasses on while I Google
yes.
this since
I did.
so I don't mess up the name.
Like when I tell y'all, I really followed their fan. I really did. Like I followed all of them on
liked
social
them.
media. Like I was just fascinated by their way of life because I'm the type of person that's like, it may not be for me, but hey, it's for you, and it seems like it's working for you. That's great. At the time. But even when all that stuff about Josh came out, I was like, wow.
It was called Shiny Happy People.
Shiny Happy People.
The
Yes.
Duggar Family Secrets.
Yes. Even when the stuff with Josh came out, I was just like, ooh, okay. But I still felt for the other kids because I was like, I mean, they didn't do anything,
Yes.
Or did they? That was part of it. Or did they? And I was like, well, just goes to show you could be the best parents out there and you're still going to have a black sheep. I guess I just kind of looked at it that way.
Especially if you have 19 of them.
Especially if you have 19, your chances are
have a
high.
little bad seed in there somewhere.
Who knew it would be the first? But and so I I always follow them, and I just really like when they got married. I was like, oh my god,
Oh, I
married,
did.
you know?
I love all
I mean, I
that.
remember Jill's wedding, and I was like, Jill's getting married, you know, and just I was so into it. I love their family, and so I had been meaning to read Counting the Cost, and so obviously the media out there is not good about the Duggars right now. It's very critical about how the parents should have done this and that, and they didn't respond to Josh in the right way whenever he did it, you know, the first time. And I mean, no arguments there. They absolutely should have done something different with Josh.
Yes.
Absolutely, there was a problem. So in reading Jill's book, I really felt like it was a fair portrayal of her family. I felt like, you know, I didn't know if I was going to go in and be like, she's just guns blazing, dogging on her parents, you know, but she wasn't.
But she doesn't seem that type of person.
She's very fair.
Like, even in the documentary, Shawnee Happy
she's
People,
just very honest. And she, you know,
I love the support that her husband gave her.
Oh my God, Derek Dillard is the husband of the century. Oh my gosh.
I did not read the book, but
Daddy
watched
Duggar,
that.
If Jim Bob Duggar has not done one thing right, is he picked good husbands for his daughters.
Yes.
Considering he had to pick them.
Right.
Oh my
Right.
gosh. Look at God. Because let me tell you, he picked the right ones for every single one of his daughters that have a husband, because they are flourishing with their husbands because they have gotten out of the IBLP.
You could just, in that documentary, you could see the love and
there
the support.
just to support her.
And there were times in it that she would like hesitate or not want to say anything, and
he'd be like, "No, say it." Yeah.
He would either encourage her, or he would
whatever
say,
you want to do.
Like, she doesn't want to discuss that right now, or give her a moment. Like, the support and the love he had for her during that
love it
show. Yes,
this was more. She does bring up Josh, but I think Jill does not want to talk about it. She's like, I don't want to, like, why would I ever want to talk about the worst thing that's ever happened to me?
right.
Like, yes, it happened.
It happened,
And I don't want to talk about that. Like, I was the victim. Why do I have to keep going over this? You know? So, and that's really what she said. She was like, I felt like I had to relive the worst part of my life through the media. It was mostly about money. And how her parents, namely her dad, because let's be honest, Michelle doesn't have control over anything like that. That's the husband's duty in their family. The kids never got paid for any of their time on camera ever. And Derek and Jill were the people to stand up and say something, because they were on mission trips in Costa Rica, I think it was. Oh, no, El Salvador. I'm sorry. They were in El Salvador. And so they're not making any money.
Right.
And they are relying on the donations on their website, the Dillard Family Ministries or something like that. And I mean, once Jill came off of camera to go do these things, people aren't putting in donations because her face is not being seen. She's not, you know. And that just caused Derek one day to be like, surely you have money from what you've done, right? I mean, your name is on the show. Because after at that point, Josh had been taken out of the show. The parents had been taken out of the show. And it was Jill and Jessa counting on.
Right.
So her name is on the show. And so Derek was like, surely you've gotten paid for that, right? And she was like, no, not a dime.
Like,
what are you talking about? No. And so they just kind of gently approach Jim Bob. And he was like, but guys, we didn't go into this to make money.
Well,
And he's like, and Derek very respectfully was like, but you are, though.
Says the person who made the money.
You are making millions.
You are making millions.
Like, and Jill pointed out, she was like, he has bought countless other properties now. He has bought airplanes. He has bought, you know, all these things. Yes, he sent us to further schooling, or he has helped us out. Like, he gave Jessa a home, or he didn't own that home, or he did. He inherited that home, and allowed Jessa to live there for free. Jill and Derek were given a townhouse to live in that he had already owned. And so he looked at that as their payment, but they were like, no, that's not enough. That's not even a small percentage of what we earned you.
Mm-hmm.
Let's be honest. You got this money because you have all these kids.
Right.
And you're exploiting. I don't want to say exploiting, because I do think, even Jill said, we wanted to do this. This was something that we wanted to do. We were excited about doing it. We looked at it as our ministry of sharing the Lord's message that children are a blessing from God. And,
Right.
and we also thought that. It was, yes, we were taught that, but
I was going to say,
also, and she was like, I also still believe that,
it also
you know?
goes to, we talk about these adults manipulating their children. Is it something that they truly wanted to do?
Yeah.
Or did he, being the father figure and the control over their lives, say, okay, this is what we are doing? And
Probably a little bit of both is the feeling I'm getting from her book, is a little bit of both. But like I said, Jill is very fair. It's not like she's just bashing her dad's entire character. She's just saying he became greedy. He was a great dad. He was a fantastic father. She very much said, my parents had a way of teaching us things, not through shame, not through, like, literally sat us down and would teach us through stories and really talk to us and like humanize themselves to us so that we could be better people. I mean, it's literally like,
and you could see
wow,
that.
I wish I could be a parent like that.
I know.
Like their parents never lost their temper on them. Their parents never, like, it wasn't like that. Like they legitimately were never spanked. They were like, it was just
spanked my poor, no.
But you know what I mean? Like their parents were very even tempered. Very patient, very like the Michelle that you see on TV is the Michelle that is there all the time. That very patient voice, you know.
Thank you, Miss Stanga, for closing the door.
So yeah, she very fair. She just was saying it was very unfair that and they had to fight. They had to take, like, it was. So this is what ended up happening. Spoiler alert. So they got an attorney, and it was the night before it was to go. Like they even went through mediation, and it didn't work.
Really?
And they were going to court, and the night before, and Jill was like, I was crying, and I couldn't barely sleep, but like we finally fell asleep, and it was around like 12:30 at night, and I hear banging on my door, like a hammer or something. And she's like, oh my God. And she wakes up Derek, because she's like, what is happening? And Derek is like, what? And so they both go look out the window, and they see this person, like, opening the door and all of this. And they see this person walking away, and they were like, that's my parents' car. And she was like, that's my mom. Oh my God. And so she was like, what is my mom doing here? This is bizarre. Well, about 2 hours later, Jill gets a text from her mom. I'm so sorry that I came in the middle of the night at such a late hour. I hope I didn't disturb you, but I left. Right? Like, I think you did, Michelle. But I left you the paperwork that you were requesting, because the dad would never turn over the contracts. Because if you give her the contracts, now she has it on paper that this is what you said, that you evidenced that you weren't going to give us anything. And that's not cool. And Michelle, in the middle of the night, went and brought it to her daughter. So Michelle does not always follow behind Jim Bob, because when Jill started wearing pants, her dad flipped out. Not because she was wearing pants, but because she did not inform her parents first. Because they believe in the umbrella of care, and that you are always under your parents' umbrella. Right. Even after you get married, you're still under the umbrella of your parents.
Husbands and wives are now under
right.
The
and now
now
we know that's not normal.
No.
And she knows that's not normal. And so she was made to feel terrible about wearing pants in public, and and she was like, oh my God, like I was embarrassed. Like, oh my God, like I was being inappropriate when I was just wearing pants, So she had gotten this desire for a nose ring, and, she prayed about it. She looked in the scripture, and she said, I don't see where I can't, where this is not right to get a nose ring. And so she decides to get a nose ring. And she said, me wanting to not make the pants mistake again, I
Pants mistake.
I called my parents. My dad didn't answer, so I called my mom
At
and
this
I said,
time, is she married?
"Oh yes,
Okay.
married with 2 children,
Okay.
100%." And she says, "You know, Mom, I just wanted to let you know I'm going to go get a nose ring." And the mom said, "Okay, thank you for letting me know." So she tries to call her dad again and goes to voicemail. So she leaves it on a voicemail, and she said, "I walked in for my first time in, a tattoo parlor, and I go in and I get my nose pierced, and I walk out and I have all these voicemails from Jim Bob, from my dad."
Over a nose ring.
And she said it was not pretty. It was not nice. It was not nice. And Michelle calls her and says, "I'm so glad you didn't answer the phone because your dad was just not in the right headspace and you didn't deserve to hear that." So Michelle does not always support her husband. Now, I get,
whatever religion they were raised under, but at this point, you
She's a
are
grown
married and have 2 children. And like,
and
if
you're
you
not
want a
supporting
nose
them.
ring,
You're not
go
giving
get
them
a nose
anything.
ring. If you want to wear pants, wear pants.
Yeah.
You want to go get a
there's
tattoo?
y'all,
Go get a tattoo.
There's so much I could talk about from this book that I'm just like mind blowing. Like as far as money goes, and as far like Jill's births after, like when she's having her own children, I'm just like,
when you go back
she
to
is so
the
strong, y'all.
original show, like you talked about how they never raised their voice.
Yeah.
I loved how that family was.
Yes, you felt like, oh my God, this is Little House on the Prairie
how
in real
they
life.
worked together.
This is amazing.
I mean, at one point I was like, oh my God, who has that many kids? I have
and
3.
have that much
I'm
patience.
just like,
and I'm losing my mind on them all the time.
I know. And so I love that, things were discussed and stories and lessons.
And that was like, wow, I wish I could be a parent like that,
too. But then as you get older and then
you start to realize nothing is perfect.
No,
nothing is perfect. Not even the Duggars that are, portrayed to be perfect on camera.
Right.
They're not perfect either.
Right.
And even though, because I will say this, I don't blame Jim Bob and Michelle for what Josh did, because I think he's born with something wrong with him.
Exactly.
However, I do think they did not. I think there
should have been a different way to address the situation.
They didn't. I also think they didn't know any better either,
Right.
because of their religion. They did not know any better.
Know what
they
to do
thought
and how to
they
handle
were
it.
doing the right thing. It's not like they were like, oh, let's just send him over here and no one. No, they really did think this is going to help him. He will never do this again, because I will say
so
this.
what did they do? I don't remember.
So when Josh touched somebody the first time, it was not a person in the family. They sent him away to a manual labor camp. Basically, it was another family in their IBLP who said, we will help him. He will come here and he will work, and we will counsel him, and we will set him straight. So he went.
But to me, when you have something like that,
you need professional help. But
not
they
a
thought
family
that's what they were
going
doing.
to, let's go chop some wood and we're going to talk to you about this
But they really thought,
too.
that's good. Yes, let's do that. I think they didn't understand the issue themselves in order to be able to say, oh, this is worse than what we could.
Right.
So he comes back and
with this
it escalates. And now that he's not allowed to be around anybody else, he touches a couple of his sisters.
Right.
Now, it was, from what I understand, and this is not in Jill's book, because again, she does not want to talk about it, and she doesn't have to. But because the papers were released, unfortunately, and she did have a lawsuit against the police department that released her statements and everything. Everything was over clothes that he did, and it was like they were sleeping on the couch, and he would do things while they were sleeping and touch them over their clothes, but still,
to
that's
me,
not
I look at the relationship between my children, my sons and my daughter, and
that should never. That's something wrong mentally.
And I think her, this is your older brother and who you trust and you've grown up with,
especially
and
the way they're raised and that they take care of each other.
And now, holy crap.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
Like that. I
And
just couldn't imagine what they
so
went through
again,
with that.
when that happened, they sent him away for a little longer, and I think more manual labor. Because of course Josh is all, I'm sorry. He's disgusting. You're not effing sorry. You are not sorry.
No.
You're sorry you got caught.
You sorry you got caught. You're gonna go do
Right.
some more manual
You're
labor.
gonna go do more
come
manual
back.
labor and come back. And so then he comes back and he's reformed. He gets married, and then he's caught on the Ashley Madison website. And he
So
goes
that's
to
when
rehab.
all that
Yeah. So then he
started
goes to
with
a
the
rehab. He
court
does go to
and-
rehab for
yes.
that. Because it was also pornography and Ashley Madison. And so he goes to rehab for that. And they're like, oh, he's going to do fine. He's going to be great. He's going to come back better than ever. Blah, blah, blah. Well, a couple years later, he's at his car lot where he's selling cars, and the FBI raids it because he is now in possession of child pornography.
I remember
Like
that.
it just got worse.
Worse.
He never got better. And so now, I mean, and I will say this too. There was something in the book from when it all came out about Josh the first time. And they had their family meeting about, okay, what are we going to do?
Right.
And Josh made like a little joke of like, oh, I feel, I can't even remember what the joke was, but it was very insensitive. It was very much like, oh no, poor me. And Michelle turned around. She said, Jill, the way she wrote it, it was like, Mama turned around and she said, Joshua, don't get it twisted. Yes, this was in the past. Yes, we have all as a family done what we needed to do to get over this. Yes, your sisters have forgiven you, but don't you dare for a second forget that you are the reason we are going through this.
Right.
And so I will say this, I had this impression of Michelle being very passive, never,
I was about to say she was
speaking out.
always portrayed as this meek, submissive,
right.
whatever.
But there were
Jim
times,
Bob said
yeah,
she did.
but there were times in the book where she got her back up and was like, nope, Joshua, don't you ever for a second forget that you are the reason we are here right now going through this. Your sisters went through this because of you. And of course, he was all, I'm sorry. You know, it makes me disgusted. I would throat punch him in a heartbeat if I ever heard him say, I'm sorry. Like,
Me
no,
too.
you're not.
Me
No, you're
too.
not.
No,
You're
you're not.
disgusting. You're disgusting. And I feel bad for his family. I feel bad for his family of birth and then the family that he created. I feel bad for all of them.
So is he still married?
Absolutely.
Kids?
Yes. I think he has like 6 kids.
Oh, and that makes you worry.
It makes me worry because I'm like,
That makes
what
you
have you done to
worry.
your own children? I don't know that.
Nothing's come out.
No,
with that.
nothing. And because Anna will never say anything bad about her husband. But I feel bad for Anna because in their religion, she has no other options. Divorce is not an
It's not
option.
an option.
And
you
she has to
abide
stand
by
by
your
her man.
husband.
That's my
Yep.
man, you know. And but it's my understanding, this is not anywhere in Jill's book, but it's my understanding just from other things that I follow that now she kind of, I don't know if she lives with Jim Bob and Michelle or if they are basically supporting her and the children because they don't have Josh. You know, I mean, he's in prison.
Right.
Like there is no other way for her to survive.
At least that he's separated from
Yeah.
the family, so
Yeah.
you know that the kids are safe.
He's exactly where he needs to be. So,
Oh.
all right. Well, we didn't get to talk about the girl in the picture again.
Again.
So
That'll
we
be
ended
next.
up talking about Duggars, but that's okay.
That's fine.
okay.
Yeah.
So
We'll put it back on ice
we'll
for
put
next
it back
time.
on ice. We'll talk about the girl in the picture next time. Thanks for killing time with
Thanks,
us today, y'all.
guys.
See
Have
y'all
a-
next week.
Good day.
Bye.
Bye.